dear viewers, we welcome you to today's episode of Rays of Hope. And we are very, very happy that you found time to join us, and we want to ask you to call your friends and tell them we are on air, and that you can also follow us through our social media platforms, that is KAK TV Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube. Very, very much welcome. The Rays of Hope program is one program where we hold conversations and we call in panelists from who have different expertise and who help to inspire courage, resilience, and most importantly, hope. And hope is very, very important in our lives. So very, very welcome. Today, we are considering the question of mediation, what it is, what it entails. If you have joined us in the last few episodes, we've been talking about healing generally, but again, looking at the different aspects that bring wellness. We've talked about trauma, we've talked about emotional wellness, and we know that when conflicts are in our lives, of course, we can't escape conflicts, and the panelists will tell us more about this. We cannot run away from that, it's part of life. But then when we have conflicts in our lives, then we cannot enjoy the life in abundance as our Lord would want us to enjoy. And so that's why mediation comes in to help us resolve conflicts so that we can be well, we can be whole, we can enjoy life in abundance as God has promised us. So karibu sana, and I believe God will bless us together. So today, we are joined again by a great panel, and we want to get to know them, who they are, and what they do. And we'll start from my immediate right.
Well, my name is Judge Lee Muthoga. I'm a judge of the Mechanism for United Nations Mechanism for International Criminal Tribunals, which we call MICT. And this is a successor entitled to the United Nations Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, where I served for 10 years as a judge. After that was wound up, the United Nations established the Mechanism for International Criminal Tribunals, and in 2012 I was elected a judge to that mechanism, and my tenure has just been renewed last June to run until 2021. But now that we work remotely from our places, we are allowed to do other things in the time that we are not fully engaged. And what I do in that time is mediation, is to train mediators and to mediate disputes amongst people who are in conflict. So when you have a conflict and you want it resolved, you will remember me.
Wow. Thank you very much, Judge. And indeed, it's such an honor and a privilege to have you on the panel today. Thank you for making time to be here. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Madam.
I am Grace Geshuhe, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya for well over 30 years. Currently, I'm serving in the Presbyterian Church of East Africa as the company foundation, as the company secretary of the Presbyterian Foundation Company Limited. Thank you.
Karibu sana, madam, and it's very, very good to have you on board today. On my extreme right.
My name is the Reverend Geoffrey Njenga. Among the things I do, I'm a professional mediator, accredited also by the Judiciary of the Republic of Kenya. I enjoy settling disputes and practicing mediation. With Judge Muthoga, we are involved in training professional mediators. And that's something that excites my heart a lot.
Karibu sana, Reverend.
Thank you very much.
It's an honor. It's really an honor to have you on board. Great minds, a lot of experience right here. And viewer, we will not be the same after this hour. I want to begin by reading words from 1 Corinthians chapter 6, I'll read a few verses that will give us a background to the discussion that we're having today. And interestingly, the title of this passage here in this Bible is Lawsuits Among Believers. If any of you has a dispute with another, dare he take it before the ungodly for judgment instead of being the saints? Do you not know that the saints will judge the world? And if you are to judge the world, are you not competent to judge trivial cases? Do you not know that we will judge angels? How much more the things of this life? Therefore, if you have disputes about such matters, appoint as judges even men of little account in the church. I say this to shame you. Is it possible that there is nobody among you wise enough to judge a dispute between believers, but instead one brother goes to law against another, and this in front of unbelievers? And it's with an exclamation mark.
Right. That's right.
It's I mean, what is mediation, Rev?
First I want to say I am very excited that this is being considered within the context of wellness. It's considered within the context of peace. Because if there is one thing that causes us not to be well, it's lack of peace and disputes and conflicts. And therefore, I think we are spot on in thinking about mediation within that context, because there's nothing better than creating an environment of peace, because peace brings wellness. Mediation is within that basket of alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. And what is that all about? It is about resolving disputes away from litigation. Mediation is a process in which the people who are in dispute come together with the help of a third party, a professional, neutral third party, to help them resolve the dispute. So that process is what mediation is all about. The professional, neutral party does not make the decision. In mediation, the decision is made by the disputants in their best interest. It is not about rights, it's about interest. They make the decision in their best interest. So mediation puts the power back to the people who are in conflict, and they're able to then negotiate together and find out an outcome which is mutually beneficial. So in mediation, there are no losers. It's a win-win outcome. And that can be contrasted quickly with litigation, which quickly brings in a winner and a loser. So in mediation, it is the best way to resolve conflict. Because if you're fighting with me, we will negotiate until we take care of your interest and you take care of my interest. And that's why it is a win-win outcome. The Bible verse you read is spot on, because believers are not supposed to be in maddening conflict where you try and destroy each other. We are able to resolve our conflicts, and there we win together, and then it can repair relationships.
Wonderful. So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win outcome.
And
that's what we need
that's
in
what
our
we
lives.
need. Thank you very much. And Madam Grace, wellness, win-win, peace.
I like what Reverend Jenga has explained. You don't have peace, you lack wellness. Mediation is one of the tools of alternative dispute resolution. Alternative to what? Alternative to filing litigation in courts of law. It's a simpler method, it's a quick method, and it is quite different altogether from litigation, in that, as you have heard, the parties come up with their decision assisted by a mediator, as opposed to litigation where somebody else, a presiding officer of the court, make the decision. The same case when it comes to arbitration. The parties bring their case, and in most cases, arbitrations comes about when parties voluntarily in a contract say in case of a dispute, they would like to resolve it by way of arbitration.
And these are big words, madam. When you're telling us litigation, now you're on arbitration. Break it down.
Thank you. When you come to arbitration, it is another tool of dispute resolution. As opposed to litigation. And litigation here means a party filing a case in a court of law, and the other party has to go there because the case has been filed, and they have to resolve their dispute following the legal processes in a very formal manner. So when it comes to mediation, I agree with my brother, as the Bible says, blessed are the peacemakers. If you can seek that peace without going to courts of law, which are adversarial, and sometimes they leave the parties totally bruised because there is a winner and a loser, as opposed to mediation where it is a win-win situation.
So mediation is godly.
That makes mediation godly, unique, and more applicable when it comes to dispute resolutions.
Wonderful. Judge, please help us compare litigation and just let us know what is litigation. Litigation and mediation.
Let me demystify
Please do.
this. And the whole difference between litigation and other forms of dispute resolution and mediation is that in litigation or in arbitration, and arbitration is nothing more or less than just a private litigation. A litigation where the parties decide who the judge is, what the judge will do, and the rules. But it's actually the same as litigation because you have to prove it, you have to bring evidence, you have to call witnesses, and so on and so forth. Other forms like adjudication, it's an adjudicator who looks at the dispute and decides how it should be resolved for the parties. In conciliation, again, it is the conciliator who decides, who looks at the dispute and decides how can this dispute be resolved. And he decides the way it should go and persuades the parties to accept that. Mediation, on the other hand, nobody else decides. It is the disputants themselves who decide now in the circumstance, in the light of what we know or what the situation is, how do we want to live without a fight. So mediation resolves, eliminates disputes. Litigation and arbitration do not resolve disputes. They determine the rights of the parties according to the law and evidence. It's a determination of who is right and who is wrong. Somebody has to be right and the other one has to be wrong. In mediation, there is no issue of anybody being right or wrong. It is how do we live together in peace in the circumstances that has now come out. And they decide we want to live this way. And it is not for the mediator to tell them how to decide. Mediator just enables them, facilitates them to talk out the dispute and see that it is more advantageous to live without the dispute than to live with the dispute. And we call it is perspective changing. It's getting the parties to look at, instead of looking at each other as the source of the dispute, they look at the dispute as the source of the conflict. And they together defeat the conflict by eliminating it. In litigation, the judge sits there, he listens to this person and listens to this person. he is given this evidence and that evidence, and then he goes, looks at his books, and decides, now seeing all this, I decide that you owe so and so so much, and you must pay it within such and such a time. They remain in dispute. It's only that they are not, the dispute is now, their rights have now been determined, and therefore they are ordered to live according to those rights. And one person walks out that way, crying, and the other one walks on the other one celebrating. And what happens in our country, for instance, is that when that happens, we just say, you know, he bribed the judge. That judge is bribed. And wait, I go to another court. And he goes to the high court, to the appeal court. And there the result comes and he says, all right, I know he has bribed all the judges. Now wait for me, let me wait for him at night. And that's where awareness comes, because there, when it is waiting at night, there is no judge to help you.
You're alone.
Yes. And there is where the whole state of peace is defeated. And in this country of ours, there is we live in a huge conflicted society. And we are living without peace. We can't even say we are in an independent country, because you can't walk from here to that place at 1 of 2 o'clock or in the morning or in the evening. You are always looking for, who is this, who is this? You imagine everybody must be after you. And the reason that is so is because we don't know how to resolve our disputes. Disputes are part of human, they are part of human life. You can't have life without dispute. Even when a child is born, the first thing that happens is that she cries, saying, I've entered a new world. Disputes are there, but the way you resolve disputes is what makes the difference. When you resolve them peaceably, you make peace, you create peace. And the way to resolve them peaceably is to get a person who has no interest in the dispute to help you people talk it out. And when you talk out, you will always find peace. But when you go to the court, you go and imagine all the bad things you can imagine against the other person. 3/4 of them are untrue, and only a quarter true. And you make him, he is so bitter now that you have gone to court, because you have said a lot of things that are not true. And he also manufactures his own thing against you, and you become greater enemies after the litigation than you were before the litigation.
So that doesn't help our relationship, doesn't help our Christian faith, doesn't help us to live well with one another. And you have mentioned something that we need a perspective change.
Yes.
In order to embrace what you're calling, Madam, ADR, alternative dispute resolution mechanisms.
Yes.
And so that we can change our perspectives and embrace mediation, how profitable, how advantageous, Rev, is mediation?
Thank you for that question. What are the advantages of mediation? I think that is the question. I think the judge has rightly said that we are in a very conflicted society. And if people are in conflict, you often hear somebody say, I'll meet you in court, or my lawyers will write you.
Tuonane.
Yeah, tuonane mbele. And what they don't tell you is that when you go there, you're not likely to get out. And you're going to spend a lot of money in there. And like he said, the dispute may be determined, or the case may be determined, but you are unlikely to resolve the conflict. And what you want, and I'm thinking now about the advantages of mediation, what you want is to resolve the conflict.
True.
That will never happen in litigation or in arbitration. Mediation, one major advantage, you can resolve the problem. You know, in this country, we have very long-running conflicts. Right now, there is one going on in Mao. there is Mount Elgon, and we especially now that we are getting near elections, all these things will pop up, and they're not likely to be resolved because you've sent the military there or you've sent the administration police there. People need to sit down and ask themselves what is eating us and resolve the problem. They know what it is. Mediation can help resolve the problem simply because you will identify the root cause of the problem. That will not be a gun. That will not be done with a gun. It's people talking. So one major advantage is you can resolve the problem. Another advantage is it can happen very quickly.
The time.
I have dealt with matters, yes, you save time and effort and money. I have dealt with matters in court or from court which have been there for 17 years, for 20 years, for 30 years. I dealt with one that has been going on since 1948, and we resolved it within 3 meetings within 2 weeks.
1948.
1948. You and I had not shown up. And the time you save as people sit to resolve the problem. The other thing, another big advantage is saving money. If you put a case in court that goes on for 10 years, the emotions that you spend, the money that you spend, people in this country have died, many of them, and left their cases still running in court. Another advantage about mediation, it's confidential. When we sit to resolve a matter through mediation, it's confidential. We sit in a quiet place and everybody can open up because it is not out there. Litigation happens in an open court and anybody can go there. So this is confidential. And then perhaps the biggest advantage is that it repairs relationships. We talked about wellness at the beginning of this program. One of the biggest problems is, and lack of wellness, is conflict. Whether that is in the family arena, the husband and wife, the children, the family business, succession matters, and even business gone sour. All those are situations where you don't have peace at all. Now, mediation can repair those relationships. And I have seen it happen, that people who are at war with each other, as we go through mediation, they shake hands, they hug each other. Others begin crying. I've been caught up in one of those where everybody began crying, and I was also hugged, almost.
What did the mediator do?
Huh?
What did the mediator do in that case?
Well, you allow yourself to be hugged a little, and then you go away. You repair relationships.
Yes.
And you know, Reverend,
Yeah.
the essence of life
Yeah.
is relationships.
Is relationships.
Thou shalt love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and strength. That's the first relationship. The second is like it.
Yeah.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
It will not happen
Yeah.
unless there is mediation. And our Lord Jesus Christ is a chief mediator
Wow.
to connect you to that big relationship. So mediation repairs relationships. You will not get that in court. The moment the judge pronounces himself and declares one innocent, or rather one guilty, one loser, and the other winner, the conflict just escalates. And people will continue fighting. How beautiful when brothers live together in unity. That can only happen if people sit and they change the perspective that the judge talked about. We call it breakthrough. When people begin to see that the problem is not you and me. There is a problem between us, and we isolate it and see the problem there, and then together we stand on one side and deal with it. The problem in Mao can be dealt with very easily. The problem in politics in this country can be dealt with very quickly. The problem in our churches can be dealt with very easily if only we are willing to embrace each other and look at the problem, and mediation is the only way to go.
Madam Grace, you've been on that other side of having to decide according to the laws, according to the rules. How does it feel to be on that side as compared to being a mediator?
It's very bad.
Well, it's interesting that for the last 30 years, I've never seen parties going to hug a judge or a magistrate.
Never happened.
In an outcome of a case.
Yeah.
Or parties hugging each other.
Yeah.
Unless they are on the same side, winning side. So that is a very big plus for mediation, preservation of relationships. You find that there are those cases which are quite suitable for mediation as opposed to being in a court of law, particularly matters concerning families. And probably that is where Rev was hugged in a family matter.
Yes, it was.
It was.
That's why I got hugged.
Yes, family matters can be very, very emotional.
Yeah.
And when they are heard by way of mediation, other than court, that confidentiality, even of the family matters, it is very important. And it does not leave the members of the family bruised because they have not washed their linen in public. When it comes to litigation, you cannot avoid public. The law is very clear. Our constitution today says courts are public places. So the minute the case lies in court, it is recorded in public. So that is one of the disadvantages. Again, the wheels of justice are quite slow. You find cases dragging on and on and on. That is why a mediator will get a case of 1948, which came there before he was born, and quickly finish it up in less than 66 days. Also,
and we want to pause there because we want to continue, and it's getting better.
It's getting better.
Really, it's getting better because we are getting informed, and we want to hear more about this. We need to take a short break. We'll watch a short clip, after which we'll come back, because we want to make peace, we want to live in good relationships, we want to have wellness, we want to enjoy the gifts of God. God intends that we have life and have it in abundance. But all these things are stopping it. So we'll take a short break, we'll be right back.
In this video, we will introduce mediation. Mediation is a process where parties in a dispute select a neutral party, a mediator, to help them resolve their dispute. The mediator facilitates negotiation so the parties can resolve their dispute. Let's say Patty and David enter into a contract, but there is a dispute, and Patty accuses David of breaking the contract, and David accuses Patty of breaching the contract. Now, they could go to court, but litigation can take a long time. It can also be expensive. Also, litigation is public. Other people will know about it. And in a litigation, the parties can't control what a jury or judge will decide to do. So perhaps Patty and David will not want to litigate now, but if the parties don't want to go in front of a judge, what can they do? Well, they could try to negotiate and settle their differences, but sometimes parties in a dispute have trouble negotiating with each other. And that's where a neutral party, acting as a mediator, can help. So let's say we have a neutral mediator named Mary. As a mediator, Mary's job is to help the parties negotiate. The mediator helps the parties reach an agreement, but she doesn't compel the parties to settle their case, and she doesn't decide who should win the case. So in our example of Patty and David, they won't go to court for now, and instead, they'll meet at Mary the mediator's office. In this more informal setting, the mediator will try to help the parties negotiate. During the mediation, the mediator will probably speak to both parties in front of each other, but she'll also probably speak to each party privately. Keep in mind, at mediations, parties are often represented by their attorneys, and all discussions in a mediation are treated as confidential. If the mediation is successful, the parties will reach an agreement, And they will probably sign a settlement agreement to end their dispute. For example, David might agree to pay $25,000, and that will end the case. And for many parties, this is the value of mediation. With the help of a mediator, the parties control whether and how the case ends, not a judge or anyone else. And because courts are so busy deciding cases, judges will often order the parties to try mediation. And of course, if the mediation does not succeed, the parties will continue their case in court. To summarize, mediation is where a neutral party facilitates negotiation between disputing parties. The mediator does not decide who prevails, but helps the parties agree on terms to settle their dispute. Mediation can help parties save litigation costs and lets parties control the outcome of their dispute. Courts may order parties to try mediation to help reduce the court's caseload.
Kwenye Kazi na Mali tunakuangazia, tunakuhamasisha, kukuhimiza na kukuelimisha kuhusu kazi, shughuli na mbinu za wachapakazi mbalimbali kuchuma riziki.
Karibu sana katika kipindi chetu siku ya Jumamosi leo.
Wengine walikuwa na mwanzo mgumu.
Nilipata loan kutoka kwa nyanya yangu.
Wengine wana uwezo maalum na wanafanya mambo maalum.
Nilizaliwa hivi.
La mno, wote ni wachapakazi halali wanaojenga uchumi wa taifa. Ungana naye
Mpishi mpakuzi kutoka kwangu Mpishi Mpakuzi
Vincent Kirosi kila Jumanne saa 1:30 jioni, anapoweka bayana kuwa mtafutaji hachoki, akichoka kesha pata. Ni hapa KAK TV.
Welcome you back to this episode of the Rays of Hope, and today, as we had mentioned earlier, we are talking about mediation, and mediation has an impact on our wellness because it also has to do with peace, peaceful coexistence and all that, and we've had quite a bit, and we left at the point where Madam Grace was explaining some of the advantages of mediation. And so, welcome back our viewers, and Madam Grace, please.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What I was explaining about is the cost element.
Mm-hmm.
Mediation is inexpensive in terms of time and finances, as opposed to litigation, whereby sometimes you cannot even estimate the cost of a suit. There is the filing fees, and in most cases, because of the technicalities of the court system, a party has to engage a lawyer. And cases like civil cases can appear simple before they are filed in court, and after they have been filed in court, they can generate so many applications within applications, and all this is going to be expensive to the party in terms of filing fees of this application, and also paying the lawyer and the time element. And a party who knows that they have a poor case, they may frustrate the other party. So it may not be that easy. The cost element is favorable to mediation process. It is the best tool of dispute resolution as compared to litigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And therefore, Rev, having heard of all those huge advantages of mediation versus the other rigorous and legal processes, then why would you recommend mediation for people of faith and Christians? Because we are Christians, and for the church.
Well, thank you. But before I say that,
Yeah.
you know, my heart really goes out
Yeah.
for the many families caught in the litigation process. It has almost become the ritual, the expected ritual, that on the passing on of the head of the family, especially for the rich people in this country, they end up in court. And therein they get destroyed. None of them who has been there has come out healed. It simply rips off the families. And I really would want to recommend to the families watching this, please consider taking those disputes for mediation, because therein lies your hope. You will stay in court for a very long time. You will fight each other. You will destroy each other. I've been involved in matters where even killing each other has happened in the name of seeking for a solution to the family disputes. So my heart goes out for those families who are caught up in litigation fights and quarrels, because it will simply destroy the family. But now, talking about Christians, you see, our faith is about relationships. Our faith is about peace. Peace I give unto you. My peace I leave to you. That means we just have to find a way of resolving conflicts so that we can be at peace with each other. The reading you gave us at the beginning in 1 Corinthians chapter 6 clearly says believers should not go to resolve their disputes through litigation in pagan courts. So when we then go to court, we are in direct contradiction of our faith. We are supposed to embrace each other, to love each other, to help each other, to forgive each other. In fact, that scripture says, why don't you allow you to be wronged by someone else instead of you wronging someone else? So we need to take our faith seriously with regard to resolving conflicts and accept to sit and solve our conflicts. You know, the world laughs at us because we claim to be men and women of peace, and then we take ourselves to the court process and destroy each other, because litigation is a destructive process. It will destroy. So my plea to my brothers and my sisters in church is that we embrace mediation, because it is the way of peace. How good, how lovely it is when brothers live together in unity. It will not happen if we are pulling each other, destroying each other. And of course, you know, the court process is about facts. The court process is not about the truth. It is about facts. And in this country and in any judicial process, facts can be created. So we are not helping ourselves when we go to court to create facts so that we may defeat the other. We need to embrace each other and resolve our problems. And you know what, Reverend, I believe any problem faced by the church, in the church, can be resolved through mediation. Pick any and bring it to me, and we are going to resolve it. And I know you know one or two that I know.
They're quite a number.
We can resolve them.
Yeah.
And it will cost the church much less. And more importantly, we become an example to the people who are watching. And if we can resolve our problems in peace, we can then go into the society and solve the problems in peace.
So before I go back to Madam Grace, Reverend, you know, before we carry a motion in our setup, we need a proposer.
Yes.
And a seconder.
Right.
I don't know whether judge wants to second that. That mediation is the way to go.
Yes, I think I want to add something which is often missed. There are many conflicts which cannot be resolved through litigation. There are disputes which can only be resolved by people sitting and talking about and agreeing to do that and that. And a lot of our community disputes, these conflicts that are there, will never be resolved using the law, using the courts, because they are fundamental. They go to the entities of the fundamental setup, and the court is not enabled to do anything outside what the law says and the evidence that is brought before it. The court is held captive itself by the evidence and the law. And because of that, there are some disputes that it cannot satisfactorily resolve. It will make determinations, it will order this to be done, but that doesn't resolve the dispute. The dispute is still there. It's just waiting for another episode, and it comes up again. These disputes ought to be resolved in a way which has finality in it, because the disputants, the people in dispute, have seen that there is no wisdom in maintaining the dispute, and they want now to live without the dispute, and the dispute then ends. And the way to do that is through mediation. Get an uninterested third party, person who has no interest in that dispute. Let him bring you up together, and let him help you to see the dispute in the right way, with the right perspective, to look at it together. And you will see that there is no advantage in having the dispute continuing, and the dispute will, because of that, end and end finally. So it's very important, and I think if I can address this to our rulers, if I can use the word rulers, there are many, many disputes in our communities which will never be resolved if we use the courts as a method of resolving them. Because not only does the court not have the ability to do that, but the people are not involved in it. You involve the dispute owners, if you can think of dispute being owned, to be the ones who remove it and resolve it. And that's what mediation does. It says, you are people, you are in dispute, yes. Look at it. Look at this dispute against your interests. We don't want to talk about rights, because rights do not always give you what you want. What you want to talk about is, what are your interests? What would you want to live? How would you want to live? And once you have agreed on how you want to live, whatever the rights are, forget them. Live as you would want to live, whatever the law says.
And thank you very much, Judge. I'm just interested in knowing whether mediation is entrenched in our law.
Yes, now let me come to that. And one of my colleagues here said that litigation is better because once the court has decided, you can enforce what the court has decided. You can actually send mediators to rip off the house of your opponent, and it will do that. And the procedure, the law provides a procedure by which you can enforce those decisions. Now, in mediation, as we sit now, there is no ability to enforce the dispute. It's goodwill. It's gentlemen. We have reached, we have agreed, check my heart, and it's finished. But we have found out that Kenyans, I think it is the former Safaricom leader who said they think, they have a way of thinking. They can say one thing today and say a complete opposite tomorrow without brushing. So we have, we need a legal mechanism for supporting mediation. That's what we are lacking. And that is perhaps one of the reasons why mediation is not so well. But recently, I saw Parliament publish a bill, the Kenya Mediation Bill 2020, and they are calling for public participation. And if that bill is enacted, or when that bill is enacted, mediation will become so strong. It will be, it will take us very far in getting rid of even what we have now, the court backlog of cases. You know, the judiciary is actually stuck with hundreds of undecided cases, which they are trying to resolve through what is called the court-mandated mediation. But the because people do not, because mediation is not, has not got a legislative support,
Yeah.
people are shy about using mediation. But if when this act is enacted, it will provide for how the mediators are to be trained, who is to train them, what they do, how they do it, and also that what is decided can then be enforced by the law, as it would, a judgment would be enforced.
Thank you.
And that is what has been lacking.
Yeah.
And when it is enacted, and I ask all members of parliament to please enact this mediation bill as soon as possible. We will be in a much, much stronger position in resolving our disputes.
Wonderful.
Both in the domestic field, in the commercial field,
Wonderful.
in the family field, in the community field. And you know, this country is growing towards people being forced to live together. Because when you set up a 20-floor apartment block, you collect people from all over the place. They have to live together, and they have to resolve disputes on a daily basis, because the child of so-and-so has hit the child of so-and-so, the water has been missing in that, it has poured in this. And these disputes, if we had to take all these disputes to court, the courts will be congested, they will not even have ability to resolve them. We need to have a legislative support which enables those disputes to be resolved quickly, cheaply, and effectively.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
And I think
Thank
it is
you, Judge.
important to also note that mediation is anchored in the supreme law of the land. The Constitution in Article 159, I think 2C, the Constitution supports alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Now, in pursuit of that article, the judiciary has come up with the court-annexed mediation, where they are trying to resolve the matters they have in court through mediation. And they accredit mediators through a mediation accreditation committee. They accredit mediators who then take those matters to resolve them. I am one of those people who are doing that work. So the legal, the statute that the judge is talking about will only make things stronger and better. But already there is provision in this country, in the Supreme Law.
There's no vacuum.
And the judiciary is very purposely supporting mediation and doing a very good job in that regard.
Wonderful.
But I also wanted to talk about one other area, which is in the family mediation, and encourage particularly the couples who are quarreling for whatever reason to try mediation. For some reason, the family unit is under a lot of strain, and we are ending up in court, ripping open the family, the children, and whatever else you have made together in the last 30, 40 years that you have lived together. I would want to encourage every couple that is thinking about going to court to first try mediation.
Wonderful. And Madam Grace, I want you to build on that before I come to Judge.
Yes.
What are the cases? I think he has alluded to one of them, family issues. So what matters are suitable for mediation or more suitable for mediation?
Yes, thank you. Before I go to the matters which are suitable for mediation, let me advance what Reverend Jenga has said, that our courts are embracing mediation. In the judiciary, we have what is called court-annexed mediation. Pending cases, and perhaps that is what the public do not know, cases which are pending in court can also be removed from court and go for mediation and be finalized. And the judiciary has used mediation to reduce the backlog of cases. And I'm sure Reverend Jenga has dealt with some of these matters which are pending in court.
Yes, I have.
And through the court-annexed mediation, they have been referred to a mediator. It is important that we get a legislation regarding mediation so that these decisions can also have a force. But again, we want to be careful that we do not come up with the rules and regulations which are going to be so strict and discourage the parties from mediation. Indeed, it would be better if we lawyers, do not participate in mediation. It makes it easier because we have the tendency of introducing what we have been trained, the rules and procedures. That should not be there in mediation. It should be simple, less expensive. Come to cases which are suitable for mediation. Most cases which are non-criminal cases should go for mediation. Matters arising from business disputes, mergers, but more or less the most suitable are family matters. And you'll note that family matters are wide. They range from divorce, they range from succession, when people are trying to succeed the estate, the assets left by a dead person. Those matters can easily be dealt with under mediation. Children issues, when parties disagree and they are undergoing divorce or the marriage is strained, the sufferers are the children. The custody of the children come to play. And you find that children have found themselves in unfamiliar grounds. Children have been taken to court. And as judge has said, that the court does not have the benefit of considering everything that is ailing that family. Reverend Jenga has talked about courts and facts. Some of these things may not be properly brought out in a court of law. So the court ends up making a decision which is not suitable to the beneficiaries. We have seen so many cases where children have been ordered to be under the custody of the mother, and they immediately start protesting in a court of law and holding on to their father, and vice versa. If such cases were subject to mediation, where the mediator will have the benefit of working with the parties. Note here, a mediator can meet with one of the parties and listen to that party. Then meet with the other one separately and listen to that party. That is advantageous because the mediator gets the benefit of getting a lot of information which he can use to guide and facilitate these parties to arriving at an amicable agreement. But when you go to court, the court does not have that benefit. A presiding officer of the court, a judge, a magistrate, cannot meet with a party to a case outside the courtroom or privately. That will not happen. So mediation, when it comes to family matters, it is the best suitable tool for resolving whatever dispute is in that family.
Now, mediation sounds like the way to go. It's so good. It's going to preserve our relationships, our peace, and we'll become well. You know, it has to do with our wellness. So Judge, Reverend, Madam, I'm just wondering, where have you been? How comes we don't know much about this?
I said it is historical.
Yeah.
When we were colonized in the year 1920, the colonizer had to take captive of our mind. Because if you don't take captive of a colonized person, you can't order them, you can't make them do what you want.
Yes.
And we were then given to know that all those systems that we had for resolving disputes ourselves are primitive. They are illegal. They are not right.
Yeah.
If there's a dispute before you, go to the chief, go to the DO, go to the administrator. He will decide what you want to do. And all our ability to resolve disputes was taken away. And we were given the chief, the magistrate, the judge, the whatever, to be the ones who decide our disputes. And we stayed in that position all the time we have been. Even up to the present moment, although the Constitution refers to alternative dispute resolution mechanism, it still remains ordering that disputes be resolved by courts, by judges. And that is why the enactment of our Mediation Act is going to be a great improvement. And it will provide, for instance, that before you can go to file a case, you must try mediation. So that cases don't go to court if they don't have to go to court.
Yeah, exactly.
Only cases which must go to court will go to court.
Yeah.
These others will be resolved through mediation.
Yeah.
And that is the way to go. And that is the way we are going forward. And I hope that in the course of this year, the mediation bill will be enacted to become the Mediation Act.
And we pray that that happens soon.
Yes.
So that we can enjoy all these fruits. Now we must wind up. Reverend, to face the camera, madam, and just give a parting shot in 30 seconds.
My parting shot is this. If you have any dispute, please try mediation, because mediation works.
Mediation works.
Mediation works. I've tried it in just about any matter you can think about, and it works. Try it.
Thank you, madam.
Yes. Majority of Kenyans are Christians. Christians are called to be peacemakers. Let us be peacemakers.
Let us be peacemakers, Judge.
Our greatest obligation is to train mediators. We need mediators. Even the judiciary cannot successfully roll out judicial court annex mediation because we need people who are trained to help others resolve disputes. And the company in which I work with, Reverend Jega, the Dispute and Conflict Resolution International, and other companies are in the business of training mediators. And I invite all of you to come and be trained to help people in your village, in your family, in your background, in the church, to resolve disputes. Especially disputes in the church is the opposite of what the church stands for.
Sure.
And we need to be able to resolve them without hurting people unnecessarily and without creating enmity, because that is the Lord Jesus Christ has ordered us, commanded us to love each other. It is not we are not given it as an option. We are told it is a commandment.
Wow, thank you, Judge. Love is a commandment, and what a beautiful point to end at. We are to love God with our strength, with everything, and then love our neighbors as ourselves, so vertical and horizontal.
That's right.
And I must say that there's something coming up in terms of some arrangement to have as many people trained in the Presbyterian family and beyond, and you'll be hearing more about that. Over the past few weeks, we've been talking about recognizing where we are stuck and having the willingness to move so that we can move on and enjoy the life that God has given us. Now, recognizing that conflicts also make us to be stuck, recognizing that, and the willingness to seek for conflict resolution through mediation and other platforms, then it's a good thing, because we're going to be well, we're going to enjoy our peace, we're going to enjoy the blessings of God. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much, our panelists, for taking your time. I mean, you've enriched us. We are not the same way we began. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, our viewers. Until next time, take care, and may God bless you.
Imagine